Hi there, this is Cece Schatz, and you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and this is the boy and girl thing. So welcome to the show.
And this is Derek Bernard, and I'm happy to have you here with us this evening. Please call in or text in if you have a comment or a question. We'll be happy to hear you.
Yeah, it would be great. If anybody wants to call in, let me put in the call number here right now. So that's coming across your screen at 727-238-8970. So please give us a call if you want to chat with us tonight. We'd love it. Hey, Bill, I see that you're on, so it's nice seeing you here on the platform. So that's great. So again, the number 727-238-8970. That call-in line is only good for when the show is live. So please call us now to be able to talk on the show. So that would be great. So let's talk about our agenda tonight. So what are we going to talk about?
Well, we are going to talk about the 5 languages of love.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. 5 ways to express love,
Well,
So,
this book is really great. It's written by Gary Chapman and Dr. Gary Chapman, and it's been around for a long time. And the thing is that if we can better understand not only ourselves, but our partners, I think there'd be a better connection, don't you think?
absolutely. Communication is the key.
It truly is. So let's share with the audience the 5 languages of love. Do you want to go over that with them?
Well, let's see.
Okay.
They are the words of affirmation, the physical touch, receiving gifts, quality time, and acts of service. Those are the 5 languages as espoused by Dr. Chapman.
So what are you thinking about those?
Well, I think they're good. I would like to add one more into that list. And that would be random acts of kindness. I think I would like to throw that in that list there and make it 6. But these 5 are the 5 ones that Dr. Chapman chose. And what really are words of affection? How do we express them? Do men express them differently from women? And that's the question. I would like to hear some thoughts on that from the audience if somebody can call in or text in or whatever. But Cici, how do you as a woman express your words of affection?
Well, okay, let's say what he said about it. He said actions don't speak louder than words. If this is your love language, unsolicited compliments mean the world to you. Hearing the words "I love you" are important. Hearing the reasons behind the love sends your spirits skyward. Insults can leave you shattered and not easily forgotten. You thrive on hearing the kind and encouraging words that build you up. Well, everyone has their own, I think their own language of love, but I do think that we all have a touch of all of them, really, because who wants to be insulted? I mean, no one wants to be insulted, and we all love to hear someone say they love us. I mean, who doesn't want to hear that? I mean,
well, that is absolutely true, but do men and women express these words of love in different ways? Or are we communicative to the same extent? Or, do women express their love, their words of affection? Are their words different from the words that men might use?
Yeah. Well, I think it would depend on the woman, number one. I think it depends on her. I also think it depends a little bit about her past, what is willing. Like some women are not, because they've been hurt and they're not so easy to trust. Sometimes they don't give the word out love very easily, and so it's not. And then other times you'll hear men just throw the word out love and it means really nothing to them. It's just something that they think women want to hear, so they say it, And so you know, I think also men, they don't like to be insulted. You know, they don't want to be, if you say something, you know, that's, you know, negative towards them, I mean, I think most men on a whole, they don't like it at all, you know.
I mean, I don't think anybody would
No.
like to be insulted. But I do think that sometimes men are not as expressive as women when it comes to terms of saying, you know, I love you, or expressing those words of kindness and giving and praise and appreciation. And sometimes when that doesn't happen, it's not that the man isn't feeling those emotions. It's just that he does not express them as readily as a woman might. And a lot of women go away with the feeling that, you know, my man, he's not romantic. That's what you hear women say, that, you know, he's not romantic, or he doesn't tell me that he loves me, right? But he might not be saying it in words, but he might be saying it in the way he treats the person.
Right, in action.
In action.
I'm more with that. I would much rather, I mean, I want to hear the words, I love you. If someone loves me, you know, you have a relationship, I want to hear those words. But they're empty if you don't put action behind them.
Right.
That's the thing about words of affirmation, is if you don't put the actions behind the words, they're really meaningless.
They're meaningless.
Yeah. So that is, I think that's the key to words of affirmation. If your partner, if words are important to them, if they need to feel that, you need to put action behind those words.
Absolutely.
Say them, it just doesn't make, it isn't going to be there. You've got to actually put some action towards it. And so I think that's truly key. And I think that's kind of the same for everyone. I mean, I don't think we're really that divided as men and women.
No, we're not that divided, but I just think that women express it differently. Women are more apt to say I love you, or more apt to say sweet things to a man than a man would say I love you, or say sweet things to his wife or his mate.
It depends on what he wants, right?
Well, yeah,
you'd be surprised all the honey that drips when they want something, you know. And
well, you know, if he wants something, then he's going to have to say what she wants to hear.
That's right. Yeah.
And that brings us right into the other one, acts of service.
That's right. That's why I always say you got to work for it, baby.
Yeah.
Not coming for free. Not coming
right.
for free. Acts of service. So let's talk about that one. Can helping with a homework really be expression of love? Like, for instance, taking the garbage out, right? Can that be an expression of love? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it could be, but is it love or is it duty? You know, like taking the garbage out. You know, is it love or is it duty? Is it something that you feel that you must do because you are the person in the house with that expectation? You know, I once had, when I was in school, a psychologist giving us a lesson, and he said, look, when you start living with someone, he said, let them do everything first, right? He said, when he was married, he never took out the garbage until the second week. And we were surprised as young guys, you know. He said, well, why, doc? He said, because if you take that garbage out from the very first day you're married, you do all the things that your wife expects that a man will do around the home. The day that you don't do it, there's going to be expectations that have not been met, and it would cause conflict. So you let her feel that you don't care about those things. Let her do it. You can always pick up the duty and do the needful after. And it did not make sense then until I actually started living with someone. So I think a lot of these things.
So I don't think that works. I don't think that one.
Well, it does. You know.
I mean, you know.
You see, when you're a woman who has experience already, right? Then you have certain expectations coming in. But if you never lived with someone in your life and you know, just either were living on your own or just came straight from your parents' home, and you have this relationship, now it's a different thing. Now you feel your way around. And that's where the difference lies. And
I beg to differ because I don't agree with that. I think that number one, I think that when it comes to stuff, okay, around the house or whatever, there's always a partner that is better at certain things than the other. And so they might like a way of doing things versus the way the other person does it. So I think you kind of create a balance there and you allow the person to do what they want to do. But to say, I'm not going to help you for 2 weeks because I want you to understand, that's a control mechanism, and that's not.
But you're not
start a relationship.
You're not telling the person that. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You're just not making them expect certain things. But it works in some instances. It may not work in others.
Yeah.
You know, but I think when people acts of service, you know, it goes on to say, absolutely anything you do to ease the burden of responsibilities weighing on an act of service, person will speak volumes. So what he's saying is that whatever you do, excuse me, whatever you do to live up to your responsibilities would speak volumes in terms of that relationship and how the other person perceives you and perceives themselves. To me, the best situation is for people to really, you know, be kind to each other, to be considerate of each other. And to me, that's very, very important in any relationship. The minute you start looking at something as a duty, it changes the way you feel about doing it. You know, doing something out of duty and doing it out of love are two different acts altogether.
Yeah, I think that's the fine line here, is because I can share with you, I had a relationship one time where it seemed like we were both doing things for each other, and it was great. I mean, it was, you know, we helped each other. It was like a 50-50, you know, you might have been better at doing this than me, so you did that, but I try to help you do this, and it was really working. Then something happened. There was a shift in the relationship as time had gone on. Then it started to be like, you're going to be doing this. So next thing I know, he's not coming home and I'm walking his dog and I'm buying dog food and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And then I find he's not doing those other things that he used to do. You know, he used to be very particular about the bathroom. So he would always clean the bathrooms, and he stopped cleaning the bathrooms, and he stopped doing this. And next thing you know, I'm doing it all. And he's working, and when I say to him, well, I'm working, you're working, but now I'm doing all of it, and you're not holding up your end of it. So the thing is not, I get what he's saying about the language of love, that you're trying to ease the burden of someone else, but I also know that it's if you love someone, you don't just dump on her or dump on him. Do everything. And so there has to be a balance. And then you do it. Maybe you don't like taking the trash out, but you do it because you love her enough to take the trash out. So she's not going out in the dark. She's not doing that, you know, things like that. I mean, like, even to this day, I won't take my trash out if it's dark because I'm afraid to go out in the dark.
Right.
Yeah. Because there's coyotes around here and stuff like that. I'm afraid. I just know they're going to attack me and when I go to the garbage can. So I will wait till morning and take that trash out in the morning. Yeah. So it's funny, but if you know your partner has some sort of thing like that, then you do it for them, and it just, I mean, the more we can show that we love someone, isn't that the best way, you know?
Well, yes, I think that it is the best way. I mean, if you're with someone and, you know, and you just start like the situation you were describing earlier, where that person just stopped doing the things around the house that was helpful. After a while, right? It just kind of slid off the scale of his consciousness because he wasn't really doing what came naturally to him.
Right.
You know, he was doing things around the house. Probably grew up in a home where, you know, the boys didn't do anything around the house or whatever the situation might have been. But he wasn't doing something that was natural, so he went back to his natural state of being. But then your expectations were at a certain level. So when he stopped, your expectations turned to disappointment.
So he should have done that 2-week thing. So I realized he wasn't going to do it.
He wasn't there.
But it was his dog. It wasn't my dog. That's funny. But I mean, I think that individuals do have a certain language of love. We do have that. And so this book really kind of opened my eyes to the fact that we are different. And I think that's really what it's doing. It's showing us that we are very different. Because when I read these, I think, well, I'm that. And then I think, I'm that too. Right. And so, yeah, so it amazes me. Receiving of gifts. What do you think of that one?
Well, I mean, receiving of gifts. Don't mistake this love language for materialism. The receiver of gifts thrives on the love, thoughtfulness, and effort being behind the gift. If you speak this language, the perfect gift or gesture shows that you are known, you are cared for, and you're prized above whatever was sacrificed to bring the gift to you. And that might be true for the receiver. I mean, anybody like to receive a gift that is a thoughtful gift. If it's not thoughtful, then it's just, some piece of material. But if somebody really knows you and knows what you want and know what you appreciate and give you a gift, you feel good about it. But I think when I give a gift, I probably get more pleasure in giving the gift, or just as much pleasure in giving the gift as the person who receives it. Just to see the appreciation gives the giver a certain amount of satisfaction as well. So giving gifts to me goes both ways. It is satisfying to the receiver, and it is also satisfying to the giver of the gift.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And the thing is, it's because you love the person that you're giving the gift to. You have this caring feeling for them. And so it's not necessarily that, oh, I've spent this much money and so I'm going to give you this. It's that you're saying, I can't wait for their surprise. I can't wait for them to be excited about it. They're going to be thrilled with this, whatever it is. And so it's often said a gift given is not necessarily for the person that's giving it, but it's for the person that's receiving it. It's for the person that's actually giving the gift.
Giving it. Yeah, I think the giver gets just as much pleasure as the receiver, as far as I am concerned. I mean, it's something when you give a gift and it's appreciated. If you give a gift and it's not appreciated, then
let me share with you a story about this. I had a guy that I dated for quite a long time, and the first time, and I did a really lot of great things, and I used to love it. Like, for instance, as an example, I've shared this story before, but like when we first met, he wanted to know what my favorite drink was, and so when we went out, he had, it's champagne actually. And so he had a bottle of champagne and he had that chilled, and he was all really excited about that. And that was very, very sweet of him to do that. And so as the relationship continued, he'd give me present, like for my birthday or whatever. But he said that his previous girlfriend didn't like it because she always expected something expensive. But instead what he did is he usually had a bag and he had a lot of little trinket stuff, not expensive stuff, but little trinket stuff. And so I used to think it was endearing. I thought it was always very sweet. Like you'd have something that said, I love you on it, or a little bear or whatever. And I thought it was very, very sweet, because to me, it was more about him picking out the items, giving it to me, made it special. So as our relationship went on, right, I would get these bag full of stuff, little trinkets of things or whatever. And I used to think, oh, how sweet, how wonderful he's doing this, right? Then one time I had to go find something for him. He kind of a bit of a hoarder, and he had a lot of stuff. He would buy stuff. And so I went to go get something in one of the bedrooms. What did I find? I found a whole box of rocks that he bought that had the same thing that he gave me. And he said, like, I love you or whatever. And he's got a whole box of these little rocks. And I said, isn't that what you gave me for my birthday or whatever? And he goes, well, yeah, they were on sale, so I just bought a whole bunch of them. I said, well, I'm thinking he picked this out special for me, and he bought a whole. I said, who else are you giving these rocks to? So the whole thing away. Yeah.
You threw them away.
You want to be careful about the gifts that you give. And making sure they really do have a meaning behind the gifts that you give.
Yeah, if you
and so then from then on, whenever you give me something, I said, well, how many of these did you buy? What sale did you get? It really took the meaning away from me. It really.
Yeah, I know that really put you down in the dumps as far as that gift is concerned. Because all of a sudden you realize, but wait, this wasn't about me. This was about a sale. This wasn't about any thought behind it, really. And that, again, that was not sincere gift giving, really.
Right. So that is the underlying thing. It's about this being sincere. Like you said, it's about picking that, whatever that item is, you want to share with somebody else because you know that they're going to love it. You're buying it for them because they're going to love it. You're being sincere about it. And so, yeah. So, yeah, he pretty much shot himself in the foot with that one, but yeah.
Oh, my.
Because he was scoring big time there for a while.
Until you found out.
And he was probably giving the same thing to his sister,
Right.
Anyhow, that's funny.
Oh, my gosh.
So again, you just have to kind of understand kind of what yours is. I think this is mine, the quality of time.
Quality time.
Yeah, I think that's one of my languages of love.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess so. For most people, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always, to me, a kind of a gray area. Yeah, I like quality time, but quality time can't be all the time. Quality time is that special time that we have together, where we can focus attention on each other.
Mm-hmm.
But quality time for me is not 24/7.
No. Well, that wouldn't make it quality then. That would just make it all the time.
All the time.
I think that's what makes it quality, is that especially if both of you have two busy lifestyles. But when you get together and you're going to spend that quality time together, the TV goes off or what. And like I was saying to you, the gentleman I was talking about earlier, is that what I love so much about him is that he did give me that quality time. He would come in and we would talk, and next thing you know, we would be supposed to have dinner and it was already dark, and we would be talking for hours, and so a lot of really good quality time together. So, no disrespect to him, I'm not trying to put him down, but I think that that's my language of love. It's not when you spend time together and then somebody's watching the TV and you're trying to have a conversation with them and they're like, oh, what'd you say? That's not quality of time.
Well, yes. I mean, unless, during that quality time, you want to look at a movie together.
That's different. Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
But quality time to me is time spent with the person. And sometimes I just enjoy the quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It might just be the quiet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but just knowing that that person is there with you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that makes you feel fulfilled. Makes you feel good, you know.
One of my favorite things is just watching the sunset. You know, spending time. I just love that. I just love to go and watch the sunset. And
Right.
it doesn't have to be a lot of noise and a lot of conversation, but it's just nice to be able to have that close at the end of the day and that you're together. So so the quality time is important.
It's very important, you know, and I often say that I enjoy quality time. Might be the sunset, might be a walk on the beach, might be a forest bath, you know, just walking through.
A forest what?
Bath.
A forest bath?
Yes.
Forest bath.
Well, you find a nature, a place of nature, and you just go and spend time there. You walk through, you reconnect with nature, with the earth, with the trees around you, with the animals around you, or whatever, and you just soak that in. And it's so refreshing, you know, because we tend not to take time to be in touch with nature, and the more we are in touch with nature, the more in touch we are with ourselves.
That's true.
You know, or even and you go to a place where you can see the stars in the sky, probably. Just soak that in. Let your soul be refreshed by nature. And you do something like that together, and that is really good quality time to spend with your loved one, you know. So it's things like those to me are very important.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah.
I think my mic is mixed up. Oh, and this is a big one. Physical touch.
Physical touch.
Touch is always so different between men and women.
Well, what do you think is different between men and women?
Well, because I think physical touch for women, it doesn't necessarily mean sex. And for men, physical touch always leads to sex. So there's a huge difference between the two.
Well,
what are you going to say about that? Did that make you speechless?
Well, I mean, I mean, sometimes it doesn't have to lead to sex, really. A lot of times women feel that men just want physical touch to lead to sex. Sometimes a man isn't in the mood for sex. He might just be in the mood for a good hug. And the woman thinks, well, it has to move to sex. So sometimes she's the one who really wants the sex more than the man sometimes.
Well, I really think a lot of times I really do think a lot of times men, when you're starting to, you know, have the touch or whatever, it tends to lead into that. And I really think that women, that's not where they start out. Most women don't start out in their head thinking they're going to have sex. They're thinking that, you know, they're being loved on, you know, and sex is not always about love.
Sex is not about love.
Well, sometimes sex is about love.
Sex could be an expression
but a lot of times it's not about love.
Sex could be an expression of love. It could be the icing on the cake. But one has to know the relationship you have. You know, if you know that this is a relationship based on love, and you already love each other, and all the things that you do really shows that you love each other, well, sex at that point is like a fulfillment of that love, an icing on the cake, so to speak, right? But if your relationship is not really about love, you know, it might be a relationship of convenience. Yeah, although no relationship is really one of inconvenience, but they are inconvenient relationships.
Right.
But if your relationship is because of economics, or mainly because of economics, and one has to be honest, you might pretend it's about love, but when you really chunk down into the relationship, it's about economics. Then at that point, sex is not about love. Sex is about physical gratification.
Okay, let's back it up here for a minute. So when you're in a relationship and it's about economics, it's not about love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so therefore, when you're actually having sex with the person that is just about economics, you're not sharing love with that person.
You might be.
The one party may think, oh well, they're in love with me, but the other party is really just trying to seal the deal on the economics. It's more of a business deal.
Well, you know,
that can be very hurtful when it really comes out that the reality is that's what it is.
Right. Now, there's some relationships like what you described, right? Purely, and the other person is really sealing the deal about the economics. And that can go either way, man or woman, right? But really and truly, sometimes it's about economics, and you may even have children together, right? And it's not about economics, it's about staying together because, you know, hey, it's better to be together than to split apart.
Right. Then you're with the kids. Okay, here's the thing about relationships, I feel anyhow, is that there's always a reason why you're in a relationship with someone. Yeah. And it usually doesn't start with just love, you know. So when you first start dating, it could be attraction, it could be a lot of different things, and then it blossoms into something else. And then sometimes it'll have a shift. The relationship will have a shift, like you said. Maybe you're staying in it because of economics or whatever. So I think there's always like a line there. But I think tonight what we're trying to talk about is like the language of love that our partner, so we can connect with our partner more, so we can have a better understanding about what would make them happy. You know, and also an understanding about what makes us happy. And so, you know, some of the things that we've touched on tonight, you know, like being together and affirmations of love and, you know, some of those things, they're an element of an element of what brings us together, I think, more as a parties together, or so to speak, or whatever. I don't have the wording for that, but but you know what I mean? It's something that kind of unites us more.
Right.
And then I also think we tend to sometimes love people just over time, you know?
I mean, that could happen. And sometimes we really don't know why we love someone. What I've learned over the years is that love really does not have a reason, right? You don't usually know why you are in love with someone. It could be the sound of that person's voice that triggered that love in your mind. It could be the look of their face, their lips, their nose, their eyes, or whatever, right? You don't know why you fall in love. But all you know is that there is this love that you feel for this person, you know, and oftentimes you cannot define why you love this person. You know, now, and that's, to me, is, I call it the mystery of love, and I love that. You know, to me, it's more than the physical. It goes, to me, into the spiritual realm a little bit when you're really in love with someone.
You know, I heard Steve Harvey say the other day, I tape his shows, I like to listen to his shows, and he said, someone asked him, how do you know when the person is the right one? How do you know that? And his reply was, when you know you can't live without that person. When you think of that person every day, when you get up in the morning and that's the first person you think about, that's the last person you think about when you go to bed. That's the person you want to please. That's the person you want to hear their voice. That's when you know that person is the right one. I thought, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
But then there could be a thin line between love and obsession as well.
Oh, I don't know. I think if we really truly love somebody, if our souls are connected, and that'd be interesting to see. We're having a show on after this with Arnie Fonseca Jr., and he's talking about attracting your soulmate. And so I'm interested to see what he says about soulmates. But I think too that, I would think that love, when we're truly in love with someone, our souls do connect,
I think your soul really connects with it.
Yeah.
With that, and it's and you really don't want to be separated from that person. And I'm not just speaking of physical separation. I'm speaking about even though that person is living way away from you, you have to speak to that person. You have to know that they're there. You have to be in connection with that person. And I think there's a spiritual element to love and to life. And, and I subscribe to the view that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So I think the spiritual component of us is a very important part of who we are. And we have not yet learned to truly understand it. So I think love really is a spiritual connection between two beings. It's not just, of course, you're going to be physically attracted to someone. There has to be something that caused the attraction in the first place.
Right. Well, love goes beyond that.
Beyond the physical.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with you.
When you go past that initial physical attraction, because a physical attraction can turn into a one-night stand, right? But when you go past that physical attraction, when you're even willing to say, you know what, going to bed with this person is not the most important thing for me. It's just being in this person's company.
Right. Well, and I also think as when we're talking about some of the elements tonight, some of these languages of love, I also feel like, and I'm using my parents as kind of an example, is that when you love someone, you want to protect them.
Oh, yes.
Both parties, both men and women, you want to do what is good for them. And so, like our subject tonight, the languages of love, if you know that it gives them great pleasure for you to, like, for instance, my dad used to go and gas up the car for my mom, and my mom never had to put gas in the car, but he'd get so mad she'd bring it back empty. She thinks she put a little bit, or she could at least, my mom was very short, and so she'd bring the seat way up, and my father was very tall, and he said she could at least put the car seat back, in the car, things like that. But it's like it's doing those small things for someone.
Small things.
You have to, but because it gives them so much comfort and joy and maybe even security. You say you love, and the words that you share, you do it because you know that that's truly what they want to hear, and that you honestly feel it,
Absolutely. Love has to be honest. You can't really pretend to love someone. It has to be honest. And whatever you do within the space of that love, you do it because you want to, because you want to see this person happy, because you want to see them comfortable, but you can't pretend to love someone. You may be able to put on an act for a while.
Yeah.
Right. But it's going to fall away. So true love, the essence and purity of it, the love that says that it's unconditional, right? That I don't love you because I love you because you exist, or because you are, but it's not because you do this, or because you do that, or because you have that job, or because you can do this for me, or because, no. I love you just because you exist.
Right. And you do these things because you do love them. Now, I will say that I think you can fall out of love when someone doesn't treat you right.
Well, if that person isn't treating you right, that means that person is not in love with you.
Well, but that doesn't change your feelings.
But it doesn't change your feelings.
like for instance, we're probably running out of time, but in the divorce support group, I hear it all the time where the other party didn't treat them right, but they struggle letting go of that love because they love the person that they were married to at the beginning or who they met at the beginning, not at the end of the relationship.
Absolutely.
So they still hang on to that. And I know even for myself, I've done it in all past relationships. You know, it's hard for me to release, to release that image or whatever that I had at the beginning when I met someone. You know.
So what you love no longer exists.
No, it certainly doesn't, and
once you
love me by their behavior.
Right. So. And once you recognize that, then you realize that the object of your love is not the person you see in front of you,
right?
But the person that you want to see in front of you. But once you realize that that person isn't there, and you face that reality, then it's easier for you to let go. But if you still try to clothe that person with the image that they had before, then letting go becomes extremely difficult.
Right. And you're in love with an illusion. You're not in love with what?
You're with the figment of your imagination. So.
And it's hard. Yeah, it's very, very hard. But I thought I really thought this language of love was really good because I think it kind of fine tunes us a little bit more about what it is and that we like ourselves and what's important to us, and that maybe we can share it with with our partners so they can better understand us and we can better understand them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you don't give that Christmas present in the on Christmas, you forget that birthday.
Right.
You better know that that receiving of the gift is certainly going to be. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we all have it, and I think we all have a portion of all of them, really.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think that love really depends on the individuals, how their life experiences, how they perceive life and love, and some people really grow up in such a way that they never experience love. Some people really mistake lust for love. Yeah. If you grew up in a situation where love was never expressed, or it was never the way of being, of existence in that family or wherever you came from, then and now you meet someone who really grew up in a loving situation. It's difficult for those two people to really understand each other in terms of love.
Yeah, it does make it very difficult. But here's the thing, is that we can all create our own path for love, right? We can all create our own type of relationship that we so desire if we are open-minded and if we share with our potential partners what it is that we truly want, and if we're all on the same page. If that person, as we're moving forward into a relationship, if they truly are interested and they truly do want something more with us, we can carve out a relationship that works for us. It can be our own special relationship.
Yes, it might work for a while. But would you really, in the long run, would you really be satisfied?
You're right down, aren't you?
I have learned that lesson myself because I have been in love with someone who never really understood what love was all about, who was never exposed really to love in the true sense of it, and it was difficult after a while. Very difficult, because now you have to re-socialize someone. Now you have to, your expectations have to be so different, what you're accustomed to and so on. it makes it a very bumpy ride for relationships.
It is understanding your expectation of love.
Pardon?
Understanding your partner's expectation of
right.
love.
Yes.
Truly understanding that, like you may have a different mindset of love than I have.
Mindset.
Yeah.
And expectations, because your socialization process was totally different. And that could be a problem in itself.
Right. Absolutely.
So I always say, in choosing a partner, one has to be careful. And that's why I say,
walking in a bunch of thorns.
Right. Take your time really to get to know that person, because, some people are not loved from time they're little kids, unfortunately. Never experienced love from the parents. And then their whole, it's terrible what we human beings do to human beings. What parents do to children, and so on. It's terrible. So, and I always say, you cannot be a lover and a counselor at the same time. You either or.
Interesting. That's interesting. One subject I'd love to talk about sometime is, do you think that, as we move through our lives, as we shift and we go through, do you think love is only seasonal?
I don't think it's seasonal. I think that
we'll talk about that on another show. Let's save that one.
Let's save that one.
Because I'm curious, because some people say that, like for instance, you have, we are now going into, retirement or whatever, and there's a lot of divorces from long-term marriages now divorcing, moving forward into something else, and they say that that's a season, that you've got a love for a particular season, like you're having your children or whatever. Now they're grown, gone, and you're moving into something else. So I'll be curious to see if there's a seasonal love.
I don't think that was ever love, really.
Well, we'll talk about that in our show.
We'll talk about that.
That's a good topic for next time. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. Well, I am CC Schatz.
And I am Derek Bernard.
And you're listening to the Boy and Girl Thing on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are the #1 single internet talk station. And I hope you guys will listen to us right back here again next Thursday night. Same time, same place.
Same time, same place. See you next week.
Bye. Can't wait. Okay, bye.
Bye, Good night, everybody.